All right, so we're going to start doing our keying stuff. You can use Videvo, you can use some of the other sites we mentioned. I'll have some clips in our shared folder. The idea with this is that we want to learn how to key things out. So you can do the stuff inside Nuke as well. The process is pretty much the same thing with some obviously different workflow options or different workflow methods, but we're going to do them inside of After Effects. So I've just imported, just double clicking and finding the piece of footage, or going to the folder and just dragging it into After Effects. So let's go through just some easier ones and then we'll kind of work our way up. Okay. So this is this piece of footage here. If I double click, this is what it looks like. Right. So I'm just going to drag this onto the new composition. And I want to remove the background. Now this is a post green screen background. This was not filmed with this green screen. You can tell that because if I zoom in, you can see this kind of fringe around her hair. So this one's going to be a very easy one to do. And we've done stuff like this already, but just so you can see the process. So in After Effects, under Effect, there's all these different keying methods. So I want to see a variety of keying methods, not just the same one. And you'll see why one is better than others in different instances. So for this one, I'll just stick with the straight linear key first, and then we'll go from there. So the way this one works is that you're able to use the eyedropper to choose your keys. You can do a plus, you can do a minus, and this is kind of similar to Photoshop's and how you can like add colors to your color range and stuff. So I'm going to go to this key color and just click on this green. And what we see with this one is because of how it was shot, it does a pretty good job of removing that. Now you may see it as a on a black excuse me, a black background. Depending on what your composition color is, that's what you would see behind her. Okay, so you typically want to have something with good contrast, so it's really obvious whether or not you did remove all of the key. So sometimes white is a good color, sometimes blue. It really depends on the information. Now, as I zoom in, I can see that there's still some green sticking out here. So a couple things I can do is I can play with the matching tolerance and the matching softness, and you'll see these two things throughout. The matching tolerance is basically you pick this color green. How close to that green does it have to be before it removes it? And then the softness is just softening the transition between all these different colors. So as I pull this up, you'll see some of the green kind of going away, but we're also seeing some of her hair also kind of going away as well. We can play with the softness too, and again, we'll kind of it'll still be there, like the green is still there, and we're kind of creeping into like her hair and her clothing. I'm going to make a new solid underneath her. So new solid. I'm going to make it a bright color, and then I'm going to drag this below. And the reason for that is so I can see if some of that red is actually sticking through. If it's white, sometimes it's too hard to tell. If it's black, sometimes it's too hard. But these bright colors typically shouldn't be inside of her clothing. If I turn the red or the go back to here, if I turn the FX off and on, usually you can see that kind of happen. So I'm just getting a little bit closer and kind of looking at that. You can definitely see her hair is now tinted red. Sometimes you may want that. As I zoom out, it's definitely way too much. You can see I totally like lose the color of her altogether. Okay. As I pull this all the way down to 0, you can see it's very chunky and blocky. Going up to 1, it's a little bit better. Going up to, let's say, 3, it's a little bit better. This linear key, color key, is not the best option. It used to be the only thing that After Effects had. I'll use it for some things, but not in this case. So I'm going to go back to keying. I'm going to use Keylight. And for most of my keying things, I'll use Keylight. And the reason for that is because there's a lot more options inside here that allow us to customize what that key is doing. One of them is spill. So as the green here gets close to the edges, you might see some of the green kind of spilling onto the actor. And that spill allows us to remove that green. So we'll do the same thing. So here's the screen color. I click, and now that's gone. And as I zoom in, you'll see already that that edge is now no longer there. So we just have basically this green is gone, green's gone here. We can see the red. There's still a little bit of an edge there, so maybe we want to adjust, let's say, the screen balance some. Nope, put that back. Let's go to the screen gain. There we go. Maybe a little bit of gain on there. We'll see. The idea with all of these is you don't want to eat into the character. Like I don't want to go too much on here and start to, remove some of the actual parts of the character. It's still a little bit of an edge around her body here. So I'm going to go to Effect. I'm going to go to Blur, and I'm going to go to Channel Blur. And in here, I'm going to go to Alpha Blurriness, and just set this to, let's say, 2. Now that will soften the alpha channel around here. We do get another edge, which, it's seems like it kind of multiplied the problem. But if I take a matte and go to Simple Choker, and I just set this to, let's say, 1, now we have the edge kind of pushed in a little bit. It's a nice soft edge. I'm just going to, oops, I did something. Why is the green there? Key lights there, yes. I'm not sure what I did. I clicked something and it just went away. So, but now it's back. I just basically remade that. It was pretty quick. So the point of any of our keying stuff is that we want to remove the green screen without removing any of our character. So you should be aware of that so it doesn't go away. And then once you have that set up, then you can pick, a better color for the background. Right? And there you go. So there's one piece, and because of the way that keying works is it's constantly picking that green color throughout, and then we would have this. So I'm going to go into my project here. I'll hit enter. I'll say finish simple key light. All right, so that's one shot. Let's go to a more complex shot. Let's go to this one. Okay, so now something like this, I'm going to drag this onto the new composition button. Something like this is neat to be able to add to your stuff, like on top of a piece. And basically, if you had another video, and let me just grab, let's say this video here. So I have this video. I'm going to hit S to scale it, make it bigger so it fits. There we go. If I wanted to, I could just grab this layer here, do my toggle switches and modes, and set this to, let's say, multiply. And it would actually be on top of it, and it does a pretty good job of multiplying that effect. Okay, but there's sometimes where you actually want to cut things out and have it fully removed. So we're not going to go with this method. I want to see how to actually separate the black from the white, because in some cases you actually need to separate the black from the white. So we're going to go to Effect. We're going to go to Keying. Now we could try Key Light on this, and same thing. We would eyedrop the white here instead of the black. You'll see nothing happened. It just didn't do anything at all, did it? So let's delete that. All right, so let's go grab a different one. So let's go to Keying, and this time we're going to use Extract. And this is like Photoshop has this. You can basically remove whites or remove blacks. As I drag this bar to the left, you'll see how, let me put this other image behind it so we can see it. You'll see how it's pulling out or removing all the white inside there. Okay, and this is, let's say we wanted less of the effect that we had on the other one. This is a way to do that. Now you'll see that each side of this has 2 dots, one on the top and one on the bottom. The top one is the actual color itself. So this is a range of all the blacks and whites, or the luminance. As I drag this left and right, I'm removing that. And if I want to soften that effect, that's where the bottom one comes in. So I can drag this, and that will soften that transition between those. And you can see that these dots here correspond to these values there. And the same thing on this side, I can pull the black value up, pull the softness down. Now there's not anything on this side of it, so I'm really not even seeing anything happen until I really start pulling this over. Okay, so if I wanted to, the black to be gone and the white to be gone and have kind of the middle of that, I could definitely do that. Okay, so there we go. You could also base this off of red, green, blue, or alpha, which is nice. So if you had something that was predominantly red and you want to remove it, or green or blue, you could do that as well. So it's a pretty handy tool for those instances where you need that. And it's thinking. Keep that right there. All right. Cool. So there's that, and then we can adjust, the layers here. Now, if I get to this point, I'm like, all right, I like the way that it's, how much is on the screen, but I really don't want everything to be, this value. I could always do a color correction on this. Let's say I did a levels, and right now I'm showing all the black values all the way to white values. If I take this white here and I drag it over this one, it's basically going to push all my stuff into that dark range. Okay. And so what I'm doing is I'm manipulating that original piece. So I'm cutting it out, yes. And then I'm also manipulating the color values in it. Now this bottom piece has nothing to do with, our stuff. I'll just put this under a new solid. Let's say it could be like a bluish color or something. After Effects is taking a minute just to think about what it's supposed to be doing. All right, I think it's somewhat back. Cool. So that's how we can remove that using the extract one. So let's find, this is A0445, blah, 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 blah. All right, so we'll rename that one to be extract, finish, extract. All right, now let's also maybe make this a little bit bigger. So I'm gonna hit scale. So like the top of that looks kind of weird, like that. That's good. All right, what else do we got? Let's see, this one we did. All right, here's another one. So there's a flag one. So I'll drag that onto the new comp. Thinking. All right, so this one we want to replace, let's say, the sky. So I push that over more. I'll make sure it's still going. My computer was kind of freaking out earlier. So this one we're going to do key light again. Grab the color. There it is. I'll make a new solid. Something different than the original color and something that typically isn't in the colors that are here. So like this bright green is good. And you can see there's a little bit of edging happening. Channel blur. Yeah, a little bit of blurriness on there. All right, now you can see, oops. It did it again. Clicking something. Key light's working. I'm hitting there. I'm gonna redo the key light on that. So maybe if I hit reset and then pick it again. Yep, there we go. Oh, I'm hitting something when I drag it. Yeah. You can kind of see a little bit of the green kind of popping back in here, or the edges popping back in. So that's where we can go to the screen mat and just adjust the white, or the black area, and get that to go away. That'll crisp that up. You can see a little bit of green is coming through the flag, so let's pull the white down. And a neat thing about Keylight is you can actually see different areas. So you can see obviously the source. You can see the corrected source. So if we had any corrections to this beforehand, it would do that. You can see the screen matte, and this is the alpha channel. This is the black and white that that's what we're after. If you had inside and outside masks, you can see that, combined mattes, intermediate results, and then final results. Okay, so it's a great tool to use, right? So again, this one works. We kind of go through and play it, make sure there's nothing that kind of pops up if it does, and then we could kind of adjust it. Sometimes it's a matter of just picking a different color. If I would have picked a blue that was more over here, that might have cleaned up all that stuff without having to worry about it. But obviously in this case, I had to worry about the flag, being the same color blue and kind of poking through there, right? So I'm going to grab in a different image. I have some cloud image that I brought in. There it is. And you can see there's a little bit of an edge on that. So let's go back to the video. Let's go back to matte and simple choke and do a pixel. A single pixel is usually good enough. And then I keep, oh no, that's just scaled down too small. So scale it up some. There we go. And so you can see we can have this, different color sky back here. So again, it's not like it's overly complex for these simple ones, but it's just a matter of being comfortable enough to use the tools. So being able to go in there and mess around, that's the idea here. So then we'll go final underscore Keylight blue sky. There we go. I'm going to make a folder also and just kind of keep my finals all together and my footage all together. So just making a couple folders. If I can pull this out of here. All right, well, I'll start dropping stuff in and then I can do that, I'm sure. Finish. And here's the footage. You'll see how it just gets really messy when you have like so many different pieces of footage in the comps. All right, so let's see what the next one's going to be. Let's drag this out first. Make that a little bigger. Drag the footage out. There we go. Okay, so let's go into, let's say this one. All right, so I'm going to drag this onto the new comp. And with this one, this was obviously a little bit different because we have a person here, and what I want to do essentially is remove this person from the footage, okay? So you'll see that he walks across the screen, and nothing else is really moving. This is the camera doesn't move at all, so it's actually pretty decent. There is a little bit of reflection of him right here, but that won't be an issue, okay? So we're going to remove him, and this is going to be a little bit of a different way. So I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to just draw a box on the side of the frame that he's not in. Okay, now if I turn off the bottom layer, you can see what that does is it just masks off part of that. Now, if I were to hit play, you'd see that he eventually walks into the screen. Okay, so I don't want that to happen. I want this basically to be just a still image. So I'm going to go to Layer, Time, and say Freeze Frame. Now what that does, it adds a time remap and it freezes this frame. Then I'm going to go to the end of this, and the other side should be clean now. And I'm going to click on the other side, and I'll draw a mask, and then do a freeze frame on that. Okay, so now what we have is a completely cleaned video. So that kid is not in this at all. We have basically like two still images here. Now the purpose of this is you can actually use this as a difference mat to remove parts of the kid. So let's say this was for a movie, the kid lost his leg, that kind of thing. We would need to remove part of the leg, but then airbrush in the rest of the background. So if I take both of these and I hit Control, Shift, and C, this will add it to a pre-comp. So I'm going to call this difference background BG. And then I'm going to bring that same footage back in here. So this is 17208, drag that back in. Here he is on top. So I'm going to go to Effect, I'm going to go to Keying, and I'm going to say Difference Matte. And you'll see the kid disappears, okay? There's nothing, just he disappeared. If I go to this difference layer and I choose the difference background, what it's going to do is it's going to say, okay, this is the layer that's supposed to be different. This is your current background. And then we adjust some of our settings. So as I use this matching tolerance, you can see how I can actually like make him disappear. Okay. Or if I needed some effect where he does like disappear, from the footage, obviously that could work as well. Kind of like Back to the Future-ish. And you'll see we also have matching tolerance. We also have blur before difference. So there's a couple different options here you could actually play with if you wanted to. The other thing that we can do, okay, so you can definitely do this, right? So let me just set a keyframe on this matching tolerance here. I'll scooch you up a bit and pull that all the way up. Right, so now we have this kind of neat video of, if I hit play, of him kind of like fading into nothing. Right, so that's kind of cool how we can do that. Let me hide this. Another thing we can do is, even on this layer here, think about we're using this top layer is one composition and this bottom layer is another one. If I were to go in with my shape tool here and went to ellipse, I could draw a shape, say subtract, and now I've just subtracted that part of it. And if I wanted to, I could actually animate this, kind of making this kid disappear. Okay. Now, one of the things we have to be aware of is eventually he gets to, let's say, this side of the screen, and we see his reflection there. And if I remove him from here, that doesn't do anything for the reflection. So I'd have to be aware of that too and remove his reflection as well. But it's a nice little trick. If we needed to remove an element from our footage, we can definitely do stuff like that. And if I wanted, let's say, his head removed for whatever reason, I could actually track his head moving and then move this mask to cut it out. Okay. So for now, for just the assignment part of it, just leave it on that difference matte animation where he just kind of like fades out into nothingness. And you'll see here, even with that difference matte, that way at the end, even his reflection is gone, which is neat. And I could, if I hit U on this, I could drag these keyframes down further. And you'll see that as he's in that reflection area, his reflection is also kind of disappearing. Right? So there's a lot of cool things that you can do with these techniques, apart from, just actually removing stuff from the frame. You can actually have things, disappear. All right, so we'll set that one aside. This is that one, so we'll say finish or final difference. All right, and then we have one more that I wanted to go over, which was this. Which one? That one. Yeah. Two more I want to go over. So this one here, or this one here first. I'm going to drag this down to here. All right, and the idea here is that we have this green screen that we need to remove, and you'll see how the stuff from the previous one will kind of carry over into this. So I'm going to use my key light, use my eyedropper, pick the green here, and here's the problem is that it removed the green, but it also removed the plant from over there, okay? So what I'm going to do is ignore the plant and just focus on the green screen. I'll put in a new solid underneath. I'll make it a different color. So let's say, you know, this bright magenta. And it's actually a pretty clean screen. In this one, I don't want to remove all of this because I do want it to feel like there are some reflections in there. So it's actually pretty good, right? And again, that goes into where I picked the green. If I picked it over here, let's say, I'm going to actually get rid of some of that green reflection. I don't want to do that. So let's go back to this and maybe pick, let's say that, and then, you know, we still have some of that reflection in there. I might need to remove a little bit of here on his hand, so maybe I'll go into my channel blur, go to my alpha and blur this, let's say 4 pixels, go to my matte, go to my simple choker, and pull that in some. Maybe I'll swap these so that it goes that. There we go. So I choked it first and then blurred it. It ends up a little bit softer result. You can see now that I've done that, I'm getting a little bit of pink kind of around the edge here. So I'm going to go up to my key light, go into my screen matte, and then just adjust my white. I believe I want to pull that down. Yes. There we go. All right, so that should be good. All right, so now we lost the plant. We need to adjust that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this layer and duplicate it. I'm going to go to this here. I'm going to turn off key light, so I'm just going to delete all this stuff. And what it's doing is the top layer is transparent. So let me hide these layers. The top layer is transparent. And then this layer is the original footage, and then this is our pink. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this middle layer. I'm going to go to this block here. Actually, I'll go with the pen tool. It'll be easier. And I'm just going to outline the laptop. Okay. Oops, sorry, wrong layer. I'm going to go to the top layer and then outline the laptop. And what this does is it just isolates where we wanted to key. So on the top layer, I just wanted to key the laptop out. And now on the bottom layer, I need to do the opposite. So I'm going to go and hit M here. I'm going to copy this mask, go to the bottom layer, hit Control V to paste the mask, hit M again, and then I'm going to say subtract. Okay. So what that does is basically the top layer, we hide these, is just the computer screen and its transparency. The layer below it is not the computer screen, but everything else. And then the very bottom layer is this pink for now. Okay. Now, there might be a little bit of an edge. So if you look close, you'll see there's a tiny bit of an edge here. So what I'm going to do is go to that middle layer, go to the mask, and just expand it so that we don't see that. And apparently I will do the same thing on this top layer. Go to the mask, go to expansion. And let's try doing a little bit of feathering on there. There we go. So a little bit of feathering seems to have taken care of that. Still a little bit on the side, so we'll feather. There we go. All right, that looks good. All right, now the magenta is crazy bright, so you're getting a huge outline around his hand. I'm going to throw in a generate checkerboard wherever checkerboard is. There it is. Not sure why it's so bright. Let me change my checkerboard setting or my magenta settings to black. Maybe that'll. No, it's still crazy bright or whatever. All right, so now I'm going to go to my distort. I'm going to go to corner pin. If you remember from when we did this before, there it is. I keep missing it. Distort, corner pin. I'm just going to click the corner pin and just slide this into position. Yeah, then my computer just needs a reboot. Oh, my checkerboard is transparent. There we go. I'll set it to normal, and then we're good. Corner pin here. Zoom in on the corners, slide these into position. And those edges could be a little bit crisper, so I may have to adjust that. Okay. And now you'll see that when his hand goes on top of this, it's not as obvious that, it's like cut out. I think I still need to go here though and maybe crisp up these edges. So my blur, I got a little bit too much of a blur on there. There we go. I did it again. How do I keep messing that up? There we go. And let's do screen the other way. Screen balance that way. And then we can go to our screen mat and adjust our black and white. Cool. All right. Now this is kind of neat too, because you could take this solid, and it's just right now it's set up to be that corner pin in the checkerboard. But if I turn that off, you'll see how we get the reflection inside here. I could do what we did on the phone one, put this into a composition, and then go through and make a interface. So he's typing obviously something. I could have him typing his credit card number or whatever. So again, just cool stuff. I'm gonna leave the checkerboard on for the assignment, and then that one will be done here. Final. And then this is Keylight laptop. All right, and then the last one that I wanted to go through was this one. Let's go to a new composition. And with this one, you'll see we have a couple challenges. We want to replace the sky in this one, let's say. This is a moving piece of footage, okay? We're going to treat it as a still, but definitely you could do the same process and just track the footage and then get the stuff to move around. So what we want to do is we want to remove the sky here, okay? So if I were to go to, let's say, Keyshot or Keylight, go to my screen color and pick this, nothing happened. Let's pick a different color. All right, so something's working there. There we go. I don't know why it didn't work the first time. So now as I'm picking my colors here, I guess it's maybe just too specific is what I'm doing. You'll see that it's digging into this. It's also digging into the rocks. If I go to my screen mat and pull this up, the black isn't really doing anything. The white's not really doing anything either. This one just is not, Keylight is not a good one for this specific task, especially with these D-spills, because it's looking for this gray, and that's what it's like refilling it with. So if I made that red, you'll see that it does a better job because it's not looking for that gray. Maybe we can still play with this and kind of pull off something. And we're kind of getting closer to it, but still not as crisp as we like. All right, so the edges of the rocks are good. You'll see this stuff isn't. We've lost that. The sky is pretty much gone. The water is gone. So this is one of those cases where you kind of do a little bit more advanced than that previous one, where I've taken this basically and gotten part of it, and then I'll duplicate this, go to the layer below it. I'll turn Keylight off, and then I will let me drop my sky in here so we can see the sky actually coming through. Hit S to scale it up. All right, so I'm going to go to that, and I'm going to go to my pen tool. And the rocks were good. Remember, the rocks were good. So I don't need to worry about the rocks. I do need to worry about this or this water line. So let's say I go through and kind of outline the water. And then just go straight across, basically. There we go. And let's look at what we have. All right, so that one is the rocks and part of the beach. This one is the rest of the beach. And that one's our sky. And then when I put these together, you can see how it blends all these nicely. Now, way in the back, we have this little tower that's sticking up. And we actually lose part of the tower. The only part that it comes in is right here on that top one. And we've kind of lost it. So I'm going to duplicate this again. I'm going to hit masks. I'm going to delete the mask. And I'm just going to go through this and just outline that tower. And so when you see stuff like movies where they have, a huge skyline and they've replaced the sky, this is the kind of mindfulness that they have to go through to make sure that they don't lose any of those details. In some cases, they may actually like remove a tree because it's easier to remove the tree and then put a new tree back in its place, or get a still image of that tree and then track it and put it in its place. All right, so now we just have that, and then if I click off, we can see that tower. Now it's obviously very sharp, so let me go to my mask. I'll feather this maybe like 3 pixels. 12 pixels. Nope, too much. 6. There we go. I want soft enough edges where it feels like it's blending in. Okay, so now we have a pretty good representation of this. Now, if I were to go to the end of this animation or video, all my masks are not working. That's why you'd have to track it to make sure that all of these things move. So in this case, obviously this doesn't work for the whole thing, but I'm just using this for a still for the assignment, okay? Because the concepts are the same once you track it. So then what I'm going to do is just adjust some of this. So all 3 of these right now, if I turn off all the layers, let's just look at what we have. This is the tower, this is the beach, this is the rest of it. All 3 of these are basically the cleaned up version of our stuff. So I'm going to hit Control-Shift-C and say cleaned foreground. And then I have my sky, which is right there. So I need to adjust this. Obviously, these colors don't match. This is more of like a green. If I use my mouse over this and I look up here at the info palette, you can see how the green is in the 70, and then blue is 81. Or if I go up here, there's a huger range of difference in that. So I want these to be a little bit more, congruent to what they are. Actually, it feels like there's a little bit more red. So I could adjust for the background, so I can adjust the sky, or I can adjust the foreground. So it's just simply a matter of going into Color Mixer, Channel Mixer, there we go. And then we can play with some of these. So if I go with, let's say, the red here, and I adjust this, you can see how I can introduce more reds or take away reds, okay? Same thing with the greens and the blues. So maybe I want to add a little bit more or a little bit less green to this. Maybe a little bit more blue to this. Maybe I want to go to my levels as well. I'm just going to brighten the overall, just by taking the middle slider over some. This feels a little bit brighter than what we're seeing here. All right, so that's good enough for now. Then I'm going to take both of these and pre-compose this and say flattened beach. And then I'm going to go to my new solid. I'm going to give this a color. So let's say sky blue color. And then I'm going to change the mode on here. Now, if I change it to, let's say, add, it does that. Overlay does this. That's pretty good. I'm just going to take the opacity by hitting T and pulling that down. And what it's doing is it's just blending these colors in together so they feel like they're in the same kind of world. Now we can obviously adjust this further, going into this, going to color correction again. All right, equalizing. Going back to the very top of this, I'll make an adjustment layer. And if you've never used them in After Effects, it's the same as Photoshop. Whatever you do to this will affect everything below it. So I'm going to add a curves. I'm getting a little bit too blue. Let's pull this blue down here. I think that no, it's still white. There you go. All right. So that's pretty cool. Right? It looks like a different kind of world. All right, so that's the last one. So if I go to this one, hit enter, final, beach. Drag this up to my finals. All right, now just looking at all the different pieces of footage, they're all different sizes. So this is 2048, this is 3840, 2048. They're all the same frame rate, which is good. I'm just going to take all of these and just drag them into the new composition. I'm going to say sequence layers. Oh wait, no, I don't want that. No, I'll do my own sequencing. Use dimensions from, doesn't matter, we'll make a new one anyway. All right, so I'm going to go to my composition settings in here that puts them all in the same comp. And I'm going to make this 960 by 540. Leave this at 25. My start frame will be 0. My duration, it's set to frames right now, so I'll just put this at like 15,000. It's way too much, but I can cut it down, obviously. So now I'm just going to take these and just kind of stagger them. So let's pull that over. So here's my difference one. So obviously I want the whole thing of that. So I'm going to click on this and hit S to scale it, and I just scale it down until it fits. Okay, it's probably about 50%. There we go. Then I'm going to drag my next one right after it. And you could use Premiere if you wanted to render these out and put them together. Same thing here. I'm going to take this and scale it to 50%. There it is. Probably don't need the whole thing of this one. Let's just chop that right there. And here's the beach. This one we only need that first frame. So I'm going to go to the first frame. I'm going to go to layer time and say freeze frame. I'll still do my scaling at 50%. I'll let it hang out for, half this time, and then drag that one in, scale it down to, again, 50%, and they're all 50%. And this one's a laptop, so I'll let that go, all the way. Let's go to the very next one. Let's go to 50% there. Actually, this one's probably 25%. Yep. Still thinking. And then this last one, I will hit, assume 50% on that one. Yep. And then maybe just show, we show the whole thing on that one. All right. So now when I get to the end of this, I'm going to hit N and then Control Shift X. And then that trims my composition. So now they're all together. So then the rest of this is the same. I would go to export. I want to turn off all my audio. Audios are in here. You could add your own audio, but I wouldn't use the ones that are in there and the ones that in the comps that we duplicated stuff. So just as for instance, the beach one, which is that one there. We did the freeze frame, so it would just freeze on that piece of audio, so it wouldn't actually do anything. Or the ones that we do have the animation for, if we were to duplicate that layer, that audio would also duplicate, so you don't want to have two of those with audio. So you just want to turn one of those off if you're going to use that. But it's kind of abrupt to change from one to the other. Okay, so when you have like, this audio going and then boom, it skips to another piece of audio, then boom, it skips to another one. You're better off having just like a piece of music or something kind of playing on top of that. All right, so once the audio is off, then it's the same thing. Add to media encoder. All right, so same stuff. Make sure it's H.264, give it a name, hit the play button, and then there you go. For this one, I don't just need the movie. I don't need to see your After Effects file or any of that stuff. Cool. So that's it.